All right, so let's take a look at the law of cosines. Now, this is not a formula that you have to memorize. I will put the formulas on any tests that you have, any quizzes, I'll put them on there for you. It's just a matter of can you plug them in and can you solve for it? So you've got to kind of understand what's going on and which formula to use out of the two. Now, if you can use law of sines, always use law of sines because it's way, way faster. This is a longer formula. You can see it right here. If you're looking for little a, then you got to use this formula. If you're looking for little b, then you got to use this formula. If you're looking for little c, you've got to use that formula. They're all the same formulas, it's just the letters are moved around a little bit. If I'm looking for little a, then I need to use the cosine of a. If you want to find little b, then you're going to use cosine of b. If you want to find little c, you're going to find cosine of c. So you can see the three formulas that you are going to use. It says, once again, all three letters must be represented. So you've got an a, you've got a c, you've got little ac again, and you got cosine of b. All the letters are there. Whatever side you're solving for is across from the angle you're using the cosine of. So if you're solving for letter B, you're going to be using the cosine of B. That's how that works. Now let's take a look at this picture. Now I did put D, E, and F here. I'm going to relabel that A, B, C just so you can see the letters that we've been using. So I'm going to put an A, a B, and a C. That means little a is going to be down here instead of little b. And little b will be the 220. And little c will be the 150. So I've got angle A right now, which is 48 degrees. I've got little b, which is 220. And I've got little c, which is 150. Now hopefully you can see that I have three different letters. I've got an A, a big A, I've got a little b and a little c. I don't have any two of the same. I do not have an angle and a side across from each other at all. Because I don't have an angle and a side across from each other, I can't use the law of sines. If you remember, way back to the very first slide, way back to this first slide, sine of A over little a means you'd have to have two of the same letters to use that fraction. But in this case, I don't have two of the same letters. I just have an A, a B, and a C. Because that's the case, I need to use what we call the law of cosines. That will get us one of the other sides, or one of the other pieces. The little letter that I'm missing is little a. So that's what I'm going to solve for. So do you see the formula right over here that I have to use for little a? A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc over times cosine of a. This is just not something you have to memorize. You just have to learn how to plug them in. So let's rewrite the formula. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of a. If I'm looking for a, I got to use the cosine of a. So let's plug in the numbers that we know. We don't know a, little a, so I'm going to put a squared equals 220 squared plus 150 squared minus 2 times 220 times 150 times the cosine of a, which is now 48 degrees. So cosine of 48 degrees. That's all I did there was plug in the formula. I did 220 squared plus 150 squared minus the 2 times 220 times 150 and then cosine of a, cosine of 48. Now it comes calculator time. That's mostly what it is. You just have to be able to plug that into your calculator. So 220 squared is 48,400. So 48,400 plus 150 squared is 22,500 minus, and let's do the 2 times 220 times 2 times 220 times 150 times the cosine of 48. So I'm going to do times cosine of 48. So I'm doing 2 times 220 times 150 times the cosine of 48, all in one shot in my calculator. And I hit equals, and I get 44,163 when I round it off. So 44,163. So now I'm just going to add these two and subtract, and then I'll know what a squared is. So 48,400 plus 22,500. And then I'm going to get that answer and subtract 44,163. That's going to give me 26,737. So a squared equals 26,737. Now I don't want a squared though. What do I really want? I want a. So what do I got to do to get a? Just square root it. Square root both sides. That will cancel out. You'll get a equals. So let's take the square root of that number, and we get 163.5. So little a is 163.5. Now, did you like this long formula better, or did you like quick little ratios and cross multiplying better? It doesn't matter because you're right, calculator works, but the ratios are shorter, right? So let's go ahead now that I've got big A and little a, now I can set up a ratio now. Now I can use law of sines because now I've got the little a and the big A. So over here, I'm going to put sine of 48 over the 163.5 equals and let's find angle B. So I'll do sine of B over 220. So now the only thing I'm missing is angle B. So I have 3 out of these 4 pieces. Now I can solve for angle B. So let me solve this down here. Let's go 220 times the sine of 48 equals 163.5 times the sine of B. And I'm going to divide both sides by the 163.5. Because what that does is that gets me the sine of B by itself. Now remember, since I'm looking for an angle, I'm going to have to put that -1 there, because I need to find the angle. So let's get my calculator going. We're going to do 220 times the sine of 48. 220 times the sine of 48. That's going to give me an amount first. That's going to be 163.5. 220 times sine of 48. Then I'm going to divide it by 163.5. And that's going to give me like 0.99995. So it's really close to 1, but not quite. So now I'm going to take that amount, which is 0.99995, and I'm going to put that as my inverse sine. So I'm going to hit the inverse button, and I'm going to hit the sine button. That's going to give me an 89.4 degree angle, really close to 90 degrees. Not quite 90 degrees. Angle B then becomes 89.4 degrees. So I'm going to plug that right in here, 89.4 degrees. Now I've got 2 angles. How can I find the third angle in a triangle? You've got 2 of the angles already. You've got a 48 degree angle. You've got an 89.4 degree angle. How do I find the last angle? What do we know they all add up to? 180. So just add them and subtract it from 180. So it's basically going to be 48 plus 89.4. That's going to be 0.4, 17 carry the 1, 137.4. So you're going to do 180 minus 137, 137.4. And let's do that right here. 180 minus 137.4. And you get 42.6 degrees. So that's going to be this angle C down here, 42.6. Now just look for a quick second at it. Does it look like it makes sense? Is the biggest angle across from the biggest side? Is 220 my biggest side? 89 is my biggest angle, yep. my smallest angle is 42. Is my smallest side 150? Yeah, because this one down here was 163. So yeah, 150 is the smallest. So 42 is definitely the smallest angle. So that does work. Now that is a lot of work. Law of cosines is a lot of work just because it's a long formula, but it's calculator stuff. It's mostly just plugging it in. It's not like you have to do a lot of extra work. You just have to be able to plug these numbers into your calculator and then hit the square root button. And once you've got two of the same letter, now you can use the law of sines and that'll go quicker. Let's look at one last example. This time they gave me little a, they gave me little b, they gave me little c. Little a is 6, little b is 4, little c is 8. I don't have two of the same letter this time. Again, I only have three of the same. Which angles could we find first? Any of them. Let's pick one. A, since A is first in the alphabet. Let's go for angle A. So that means your formula we used was a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of A. That was the formula that we used. Let's plug in what we know. We know we have 6 squared equals 4 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 4 times 8 times the cosine of A. That's what I don't know right now. So I have to leave cosine of A at the end because I don't know what that is yet. Now we're going to just do our calculator work. Actually, most of us know what 6 squared is, right? 36. And then 4 squared, we got 16. 8 squared, we got 64. 2 times 4, 8 times 8, 64. So it's going to be a negative 64 times cosine of A. This is like 64 times x. Okay, it's like a 64x. We need to get this x by itself. But let's put these two together first, because these are like terms. So 36 equals 80 minus 64 times cosine of A. Let's get the 80 to the other side, right? So let's minus 80. Okay, so that's going to give me like a negative 44. Negative 44 equals negative 64 times cosine of A. I need to get the cosine by itself.
64.
Divide by negative 64, right? Because they're multiplying, so we got to divide. What's going to happen when we divide negative divided by negative? It's going to come back positive. So that means cosine of A equals, and we got to put that into our calculator. What is it? 0.6875. Okay, so let's take our calculator then. Okay, so the 44 divided by 64 should be the 0.6875. Okay, we're gonna take that in our calculator and hit the inverse and do cosine. And that's gonna tell me that angle A is a 46.6 degree angle. So because we want to put this little -1 right here because we're looking for the angle. So angle A, and I said it's 46.6. 46.6 degrees. So let's put that into my picture. 46.6 degrees. Now I know what angle A is. Now I have angle A is 46.6, and I have little a. So that tells me I can do what to solve for the next angle? I got angle A and little a. Now I can use law of sines, which is much easier because it's just a fraction. So it's going to be the sine of 46.6 over the 6 equals, let's go to angle B next, sine of B over 4. And you might want to put a -1 there now just because you know you have to use a -1 to get it. You've got to use the -1 to get the angle. Let's just multiply our diagonal. 6 times the sine of B, inverse sine of B, equals 4 times the sine of 46.6, and we're going to divide both sides by 6. We want to get the sine of B, inverse sine of B by itself. Let's multiply all this stuff and divide by 6. See what we get. 4 times sine of 46.6. 2.9, and then we're going to divide that by 6. That gives us 0.4844. 0.4844. We're going to take that amount and hit the inverse sign, and that's going to give me a 28.97. That's going to round that up to like 29 degrees, because 97 is going to round up to 29. So angle B then is 29 degrees. So we got angle B, 29 degrees. So I've got angle A is 46.4. I got angle B is 29. If I want to get angle C, just add those together and subtract it from 180. So 46.6 plus the 29. That's going to be 75.6. 180 minus 75.6. You're going to get a 4, another 4, a 0, and a 1. 104.4 degrees. And 8 was your biggest side, so it better be across from your biggest angle. So law of sines is a lot quicker because it's just a quick proportion. You see that right here. Law of sines comes out to be a lot faster right here. Law of cosines takes up more space, but it's all calculator work, so it's not a tough one. And you don't have to memorize this. This will be on your paper, so you'll get a chance. You'll just have to plug them in the right place. So that's solving triangles that are not right triangles. Now we can solve any kind of triangle. That's the goal there.